Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome to Ice Rink Diaries. Local Iceman here. And for today's episode, I'm going to talk about why you should leave your snow dump tank in the open or up position when the machine's not being used. I'm also going to go over some safety considerations that need to be addressed when you're leaving your snow dump tank in this open position. Basically, leaving the tank in this open or up position just helps the tank from not rusting out. If after every cut, if you went and dumped your snow and parked your machine with the tank down, all that snow that splattered on the side of the machine and on the top eventually turns into water, and it would just settle on the bottom of the tank, eventually rusting the bottom out. And once the tank gets rusted out, it gets very hard for the snow to slide out once you raise the tank in the air. So basically, keeping your tank in an open or up position just allows the tank to air out. It allows the snow to melt faster, and again, it allows somewhere for that water to go once it's melted from the snow. And if there's any moisture in the tank, stuck to the sides of the tank, it's just gonna allow it to air out, dry out, and prevent it from rusting out. Basically, I require all my drivers to keep the tank in the open or up position when the machine's not being used. I don't care if it's been a few hours since your last ice cut. I don't care if you did a couple floods after your last ice cut and the tank seems dry. I want to open, again, for the same reasons, just to allow it to air out. Since I require my drivers to leave the tank in the open or up position, I also require them to use a safety stand at all times. So there's two reasons why you should use a safety stand. One, like the name implies, safety. And not like you need a second reason, but there is one, which is to take the pressure off the hydraulic lift cylinder seals, because if that tank is supported in the air by those seals, it's eventually going to wear out and cause your cylinders to fail. So basically the first one, safety, obvious. You know, this is a big tank. When the tank's in the air, if there's anything catastrophic happen to one of the hydraulic lines and it pop, this tank will come slamming down. In the back of my mind, I always knew that could happen, but what made it real for me is watching a video where this backhoe, this guy was working on it and the hose exploded and the backhoe arm just slammed onto the ground. Now, God forbid, if I was working in here and I kind of had my head in here like this and that happened, boom, I'm done, you know, lights out. But even though from what I can gather, that's never happened, an ice resurfacer, the tank failing and crushing someone, not that I know of. Even though the probability is very low, there is still a chance of it happening. So we want to take any and all precaution to prevent something like that from, you know, taking you out. Because basically how I see it, if you look right here, let me open this door up here real quick. Look how this is designed right here, where you have the pivot point up in front of the tank, and again, I'm not an expert in levers. I just know from looking at this that it takes a tremendous amount of force to lift something from this, I don't want to say angle, but from this part right here when your pivot point is right here. Now, if you're lifting this tank from the back right here, from what I understand about levers, it's going to be much easier. So a couple of reasons probably why they stuck the hydraulic cylinders up in front, just because you'd have to have these huge, long hydraulic cylinders that get this tank in the air. There's probably no room for it. So it just makes sense to put them right there if they can lift the load. So we know that they can lift the load, but the amount of pressure they have to lift from this point right here relative to the pivot point right there, it's got to be enormous. So there's a lot of pressure on the hydraulic system when this tank's being lifted in the air. I'm not talking about when there's snow in it, because you're not going to be here. I'm talking about when you're working on it, when you got your head in there. You definitely want it on the safety stand. And as far as the second reason, yeah, okay, Mr. Iceman, I'm gonna have my head in there. I don't plan to be working on it. Why should I put the safety stand there? Well, the second reason is to take pressure off your hydraulic lift cylinders. So like I was saying, there's a lot of pressure on those hydraulic cylinders and those hoses. So over time, if you don't have it propped up and you leave your tank open, you're just putting a lot of pressure on those hydraulic cylinder seals. And over time, they will fail. So it's just best to use your safety stand, again, not only for safety, but just to kind of take some wear off your hydraulic lift cylinders. All right, here's our old Zamboni 500. Again, this is about 20 years old, so you expect there's gonna be some rusting in the tank, but before I got here, they weren't really putting the tank in the up position when the machine was not being used. And to be honest, my first couple years, I didn't really know my head from my ass. And sometimes I can't control what people do when I'm not here, but I definitely call out drivers in the morning if I come in and see the tank down. I don't care if it's dry when you put it down. I want it stored in the up position no matter what. And this is the main reason why. Just because the tank may look dry, it may not be dry. And over time, if you don't let the water drain out and let the tank air out, this is what happens. Tank gets all rusty, then once you go dump your snow, the snow just sticks there, it sticks to the sides, it just sticks everywhere. just a big mess. Now I know I heard of guys putting, I don't know, like wax or silicone spray or some kind of lubricant to get the snow to come out easier. All right, so I just did the ice here, and as you can see, there's a lot of snow and water still in the tank. Now if I went and parked this thing and left it for a couple hours and all the snow turned to water and just kind of sat in a tank, that's where it gets rusty. So keeping the tank up in this up position, I don't know what you want to call it, the propped open position, is the best way to make sure your tank doesn't get rusty. Well, if your tank is already rusted out, this may not help, but what you could do is get a wire brush attachment for a grinder, grind off all the rust and all the crap that's on the bottom of your tank, and repaint it. Get a couple cans of spray paint and make her look nice, and spray a little protective layer on top of it, and you'll be good to go for a long time. That is if you're having problems with the snow sticking in your tank. One last thing, when I do maintenance on a machine, I made myself a maintenance stand. I know Zamboni sells them. I kind of made one myself out of 3/4 inch black piping. I stuck a 3/4 inch to 1 inch, I don't know what you want to call it, reducer onto the top of this, so it's just easier to lower it down. It gives me a little wiggle room to kind of shift it back and forth. If I had to do the skin, I'd probably go 1 inch. There's a spare piping that's laying around in the rink that I confiscated years ago and kind of made myself a little maintenance stand. Again, you could buy one through Zamboni or go down to your local hardware store and get yourself an 8-foot section of piping, 1 inch, measure down to 6'9", cut it to size, and you're good to go. I threw some tape on it just so people kind of know it's something. It's not just some random piece of piping. But I really like using this thing when I'm doing maintenance on the machine, especially oil changes, because I really need to get that tank as high as it can go. So when I put oil in it, it just gives me more room to pour the oil in. So having the tank propped open just gives me some peace of mind that, again, I know it's probably not going to fall on me. I mean, I know that's going to be a small chance. I have probably a greater chance of slipping into my bathtub than I do if this thing fall on me when I'm working on it. And just for liability reasons, it's just smart just to have something there just in case, you know. Why not? No one's, like my wife says, no one's gonna take care of you like you. You gotta take care of yourself. All right, there you have it. That's why you wanna leave your tank in the open or up position when the machine's not being used. This allows the tank to air out, prevents rust from setting in, because once the rust sets in, it becomes very hard for that snow to slide out. And since you're leaving the snow dump tank in the open, which is open and up at the same time, I just made a new word, open. And since you're leaving the snow dump tank in the open or up position when it's not being used, don't take any chances. Toss that safety stand in there. It's also not only for personal safety, it's also to take the wear off the hydraulic lift cylinders. You don't want that big heavy tank to have to be supported in the air by the seals when it doesn't need to be. Just throw that safety stand in and you'll be good to go. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and as always, I hope you learned something. And like the local ice man says, stay cool.